Hi, this video is a demonstration of a Resensys wireless strain SenSpot sensor in live mode. So first we have our setup. We have our strain SenSpot attached to a beam, so we're going to be looking at the strain that this beam goes through. So what we have with our setup is we have it resting on two bricks, and then we're just going to take one of these bricks and put it on the beam and see what kind of strain the beam goes through, and then we'll put the other brick on top and see how the data is collected accordingly. So just materials for the setup is we have the strain SenSpot sensor with the beam, we have the two bricks that it's going to be resting on, we have the other two bricks that we're going to be putting on the beam, and then here we have an Energizer lithium CR2 battery. This is the recommended battery that goes in the SenSpot to get the maximum battery life. If you'd like to learn how to remove or change the battery in your SenSpot, please watch the video about removing and changing batteries on our channel. And we have an antenna that we're going to attach to the SenSpot. The polarization of the antenna is very important. On the SenSpot we have a male port, so we need a female port on the antenna. Only a male to female connection will work. Excuse me. So once we have the antenna connected, we're just going to flip the antenna up. And now we're ready to open the SenScope software. Now once you're at the title screen of SenScope, you don't have to worry about this login information at all because we're going to be in live mode. Also, because we're going to be in live mode, you have to make sure that you have the licensing dongle and the USB sync dongle. Both of them must be connected to USB ports on your computer to use live mode. Once everything is in order, we go to the second button, which means live mode, and we just click it. Once SenScope opens, under data source, we pick the live radio button. Now, before we open the serial port, we just want to make sure that the COM serial port settings are okay. The COM port is usually selected as a default by the software. More things will show up if you have more devices connected to your computer, but you just have to select the appropriate COM port. The baud rate, parity, data bits, and stop bits should all be at their default values when SenScope is first opened. So now that everything is good, we will open the serial port and start collecting data. So here are some data packets that are being transmitted. I'm just going to go straight to the graphing mode, and we want to look at this strain SenSpot. So I need to identify it on the computer. So usually there's more SenSpots on the computer, but just for demonstration purposes, I have to look at the ID number. Here I can see that the ID number is 14030483. So usually there are many more sensors on this sensor list, but I would match up the ID 14030483, and I also know that it's a strain gauge under type, and usually there'll be other types like acceleration and others. Now I can choose which quantity I'd like to graph. I have things like internal temperature, tilt, strain, and now we can see the other SenSpots popping up on our list. So I'm just going to highlight strain, make sure that I have my appropriate SenSpot by the ID highlighted, and I would just press Add Chart. So here I can see all of the data that this SenSpot has collected in strain. The units are microstrain. This is all the data that we've collected since we have opened the serial port. So now I'm just going to put the beam under a little bit of stress, be administered by the bricks. So I'll take the first brick, and you can see that the data right now is pretty constant, and when I put this brick on, you're going to see a huge change. So I'm putting the brick on right now. So here we have that it's about 147 microstrain, and after the brick was put on, it went down a lot to around 108 microstrain, and we'll just let that transmit one more time before we put the other brick on. And you can see here it's pretty constant. Alright, I'm going to put the second brick on, and again you'll see a big jump in the collected data. So I'm just making sure that the brick is stable. Don't want it to fall. And now you can see it went, this is when no bricks were on it. This was when the one brick was on it. And now the strain jumped a little bit because I was moving the bricks around, but it went down again even further from around 108 to around 65. So we'll let that transmit one more time. Alright, now I'm going to take the second brick off, and we'll see the data come back to around the first brick data. So I'm taking the brick off. Here's our jump that we were looking for. It comes up almost instantaneously. And we're back at around 110, which is very close to where we were before compared to 109 or 108. And now I'll let it transmit one more time. And then I will take off the last brick and put it back to its original state. So there's the data. I'm going to remove the brick. Good, now it's back to the original state. I'm going to widen up this data just a little bit so that we can see all the data that we've gone through. So with this duration, I'm just going to make it 200 so that we can see more data. So here, and I'm just going to pause the graph also so we can look at it. This stops not the transmitting, but this just stops the graph collecting data for a second while I look at this graph. So here's when we had nothing on the beam, pretty much consistent around 147. Now this is when the first brick was put on, and it jumped down to around 108. And then this was the second brick, and we saw a little bit of variation because I was moving around the brick to stabilize it. We went down to 65, so we went 147, 108, and 65. Now when we removed the second brick and had only the first brick, we went back to around 110, which is very, very close to what we had originally. And then when we removed everything, we were back to 148-ish, and that is extremely close to where we were before. So that's a demonstration of the data that the SenSpot collects. If you'd like to change the properties on the SenSpot, you just right-click on the ID and left-click Properties, and here we can name it under the General tab, and under the Calibration tab you can do the offsets and coefficients as you see fit, and just save any changes that you've made. And that is the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching.